Can you tell I've done a lot of research? It's a vibe, it's a feeling. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Casual. For those who are new here, we are so glad to have you here today. We are back with another book video. 2024 has arrived. It has shined the new day. New year means new books, right? This is not gonna be a book haul. I've done my book haul of the year already. And I meant to clarify that because it's not that I'm not going to be buying any books, it's that I'm just not going to be buying that excessive amount. So sometimes in my reading vlogs in the coming year, you might see like a couple of new ones, or I might just not talk about them until I read them. I have 24 books for 2024. Clever, I know. Not like everybody on BookTube has already been doing this. I'm going to split this into 3 different categories. 1 is new releases for 2024. 2 is book talk, booktube, social media, maybe do it. And then the 3rd is just books that I genuinely want to read that nobody's really talking about either anymore or they never started. First, we'll go through new releases for 2024. We'll kind of go in like a chronological order. So the first one that's going to be released is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez that comes out on April the 9th. I have read every other Abby Jimenez book so far except for, I believe it's The Friend Zone. And that's on my list of things to read. Because then I can say I've read everything by Abby Jimenez and I've loved it all. Along the same line, I do want to also read Funny Story by Emily Henry that comes out on April the 23rd. I also want to read her other 2 books, but they didn't make the list because they're kind of a given, and I wanted to branch out a little bit. So Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation, I haven't read yet. I want to read those, just like the Abby Jimenez, and kind of fill in the gaps of that, compare any writing, get some good stories. What else do you need? Next, we have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager that comes out on June the 18th. I'm currently reading the last one left and I am liking it so far. That'll be my last one. So that means I've completely caught up on his backlog. There's been some 5 stars, there's been some 2 stars, and basically everything in between when it comes to him. So I'm hoping that this one is gonna be another hit. I don't know. But the cover, beautiful. Cover's gorgeous, you know? I love this green. The last new release that I have is called Daydream by Hannah Grace. It's the 3rd book in the Maple Hills series. I haven't read it yet, but Icebreaker and Wildfire, I have them this year. So I'm also going to be reading them this year before that one comes out, but we have until September to do so. So I'm really looking forward to all of those 2024 releases, and let's get into the next category. The next category is book talk, social media, booktube, whoever, maybe do it. So these are books that I probably would not have picked up originally, but watching so much content about these books really drew me to want to like them and to want to read them and see if it really is as good as everybody says. So the first I have they're digital, they're not physical copies. So we have One Dark Window by Rachel Gellig. This is about a girl who has a shadow monster thing in her head, and it's a gothic fantasy, and there's a magic system involving cards. Can you tell I've done a lot of research? Next, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This one was all over everything this year. I believe it's a YA historical fantasy, magical realism book about 2 rival journalists who are like war correspondents, basically, about this big, battle that's going on. And they are talking to each other, even though they don't know it's the other person, through this magical typewriter. She thinks she's talking to her brother, and I don't know who he thinks he's talking to. Everybody says that it's so good. Next, we have Haunting Adeline, and if I like it, then Hunting, but we didn't count that, by H.D. Carlton. You know what it's about. Stalker romance. Everybody either really loves it or they really hate it, and I gotta see where I fall into that. Next, we have The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Another, people really love it or people really hate it. I am a little bit more picky, but then also more lenient in some cases about thrillers and like the quality that they have to be in. It's a vibe, it's a feeling, and I just have to read it to be able to know if it's something I can get behind. And then lastly is Flawless, but the rest of the series as well, the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver. Cowboy romance, I believe they're Canadian. Everybody freaking loves this series, so I've just gotta check it out for myself. And then going on to the physical ones, we have Bunny by Mona Awad. This is a book about a group of high school girls who calls each other Bunny, and it apparently becomes very fever dream-esque. And from the way that people describe it, it reminds me of the Doki Doki Literature Club, which is a video game. And like Monica goes crazy. The vibes it's putting out. Next we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Michaelides. I also have The Fury by him that I'm going to be reading this year as well. That was my book of the month this past month. Everybody keeps talking about this one. This one specifically. I had a couple of friends tell me that they want me to read this one specifically. So I've got to do it to them. Lady kills her husband. Doesn't say a word. Did she really kill him? Question mark. Next we have Court of Thorns and Roses. I have the entire series. I have to do it this year. I have to do it this year. I mean, everybody loses their freaking minds over this series, so I have to try it. I have to see Feyre Tamlin, a girl that goes to the fairy realm after accidentally killing, I guess, a wolf. Seeing as how there's a wolf. Supposed to be kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but not really. Everybody says this one's okay, but the next one is the best. So we gotta get through the first one to read the next one. Next, we have The Divisive, Fourth Wing. Again, you either really love it or you really hate it. And I gotta know. I got Iron Flame for Christmas, and so I have to read the first one to be able to read the second one. Sensing a theme. Dragon Academy, You Fly or Die. We have a chronically ill Violet. She's the female main character, and she was going to be a scribe, but then her mom was like, nah, you can be a dragon rider. So I guess she has to do it. And then we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I've read the entire Caraval series, and with the last one just releasing not too long ago, a couple months maybe, I have the entire series on hold from the library. So I'm gonna be able to read those this year as well. It continues on with Jax from the Caraval series and a new character named Evangeline. So we'll see how that goes. Last in this category, we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, another book that I probably would not have picked up if Book Talk hadn't told me, because I'm not super into like YA stuff, especially YA thrillers. But I'm trying to branch out a little bit more this year. Try some new things. This is about Pip. She does a final project for her senior year about a crime that happened in her town. She makes it into a podcast to try to like investigate the crime and make sure that they incarcerated the right person, and she believes that they didn't. So I also have this whole series on hold from the library. That way I can just turn it right back in if I don't like the first one. So that is it for the Book Talk Made Me Do It section. We'll see you in the next one. And the last category for this video is books that I just want to read. Some I own, some are on Kindle Unlimited, and some are through my library, but I just want to read them. And I don't really have a reason as to why, other than they've been sitting on my TBR for a while. The first ones we'll go over the digital ones, so we'll go over what I have on my Kindle versus what I'm gonna borrow from my library. So the first is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. This is a thriller about a nanny who is taking care of this little boy, and I think something happens to him, but he's drawing his pictures and then they get progressively more and more talented and more dark. So it becomes like, is he really drawing these pictures? What's happening? Type story. The next we have The Shining by Stephen King. I mean, it's The Shining by Stephen King. I'm sure everybody's seen this movie by now. It's about a man who's a struggling writer, and he takes his wife and son to this really remote like hotel ski resort thing, and he stays there for the winter while they're snowed in. They're supposed to be snowed in for like 3 months. And so He thinks that it's the best time to get his writing career off the ground. His son can kind of be focused on by the mom, and things just spiral out of control from there. I really want to be able to watch the movie, read the book, and then see if they're really any different. Next we have Fever House by Keith Rawson. This cover is just great. It's about a severed hand that goes around killing people in a haunted house. That's it. That's the plot. And then lastly we have, like I talked about earlier, The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez to round out her entire backlog, and then I'll have read everything. Physically, we have another Stephen King, Misery. Again, everybody's seen this movie, but an author crashes his car in the middle of a snowstorm and he happens to be saved by his #1 fan. And she wants him to write her into a story, and she will not take no for an answer. That one gets apparently really crazy, and again, want to see if the movie is the same as the book. The next, we have this chungus of a book, The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I want to read this because I want to know that I can. That's pretty much it. It's so thick, but apparently people, again, either really like it or they really hate it. I almost put this in the book talk category, but nobody's really talking about this one anymore. So that makes me want to read it even more so. It's just so thick, and I want to know if it's worth all these pages, you know? I also have the second one, A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, and I want to be able to read this one and see if I need to sell the other one, or if I can jump right into it. Next we have The House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is probably the heaviest book that I own, except for A Little Life. And it's really cool because it's kind of mixed media in the sense of, like, some pages, you know, are written the same, some are not. And it just looks so interesting. I've heard it's a horror about a house that is bigger on the inside than it is the outside. And it seems like you would be, like, lost inside, never to return. It says it's full color. There's color in here? Oh yeah, there are pictures. There are pictures. So this reminds me a lot of The Spiral, if you've ever listened to the Magnus Archives, the podcast audio drama, whatever you want to call it. The Spiral, it can make doors appear when they don't exist. It's one of the fears. So, which is a great podcast, by the way, if you love audio anthology storytelling. So freaking good. It's horror, so be warned. It's just so good. Magnus Archives, can 100% recommend. Lastly, I want to read Emma by Jane Austen. So this one I have in this complete set. It's one of 6 in here. I've already read Pride and Prejudice. Emma's the next one that I really want to read. Don't really know what it's about, but everybody says it's good. That is it for my 2024 TBR. I'm gonna be kind of sprinkling these books in throughout the year. The ones that I own for sure. The ones from the library might tend to, like, group up together, but let me know down in the comments if you guys have read any of these and liked them, read any of these and hated them, read something else in 2023 that you really, really want to recommend. I'm always looking for new book recommendations, especially if it's a library. There's literally no risk there. So I love you all. Stay safe out there, support your local library, and happy reading.